I scrubbed the marble floors on my hands and knees while my parents, Darius and Celine, laughed with their fancy friends in the living room, sipping sparkling champagne. The house reeked of pricey perfume and cigar smoke, a world I didn't belong to. I was 16, but I felt like a ghost in my own home. My back ached from hours of cleaning, but I kept going. Complaints only meant more work. When I finished, I stood in the doorway, wiping sweat from my forehead. "Can I join you?" I asked softly. Celine's eyes turned cold. She grabbed a dirty rag and threw it at my face. "Maids don't eat with masters," she sneered. Her friend's laughter stung like needles. Darius didn't even glance up. Humiliation burned like a fire in my chest. I backed away, cheeks hot with shame. That night, in my tiny room, their cruel words echoed. I wasn't their son, I was their servant. Tears came, but anger dried them fast. I swore I'd never forgive them. I'd make them pay for every insult. Under my bed, I pulled out an old backpack. I stuffed it with clothes, cash from odd jobs, a faded photo from happier days, before they made me this. My heart pounded. Freedom was close, but so scary. I was ready to run into the unknown. If you're watching this, subscribe, like and let me know where you're watching from. I waited until midnight, the house silent except for rain pounding the windows. My backpack hung heavy on my shoulder as I crept down the dark hall, floorboards creaking under my sneakers. Just as I reached the front door, voices stopped me cold. They came from Darius's study, low and smug. I pressed against the wall, heart racing, listening hard. "Only had kids for free labor," Darius bragged, chuckling. "Elias cleans better than any hired help. Cheaper, too." Celine's laugh was sharp, like broken glass. "He's lucky we keep him. Ungrateful brat." My world shattered like a dropped plate. They didn't love me, they used me. Tears blurred my eyes as I bolted into the storm. Rain soaked me, chilling my bones, but I didn't care. I ran until my lungs screamed, miles from that prison of a house. Exhaustion hit hard. I collapsed outside a rundown cafe, its neon sign flickering weakly. Shivering, I curled up under the awning, wondering if I'd survive the night. My clothes clung to my skin, and my bag felt like a rock. Was this freedom or a new trap? A shadow moved in the doorway, a stranger peering out, their face hidden in the dim, rainy light. My fate hung in the balance, unknown. The cafe door creaked open, and a woman with warm eyes stepped out. "You'll freeze out here, kid," she said, voice kind. She was Maeve, the cafe owner. She wrapped a thick blanket around me and pulled me inside. The smell of coffee and fresh bread hit me like a warm hug. She handed me hot cocoa, steam rising, and didn't push for answers. When I spoke, my story spilled out, the endless chores, the rag in my face, the escape. Maeve listened, her face soft with understanding. "I ran from a bad family too," she said. "It's tough, but you can rebuild." Her words were the first real kindness I'd known. She gave me a cot in the back and a plate of warm food, no strings attached. It was dignity, something new. As I settled in, I spotted a dusty journal on a shelf. I flipped it open, finding pages packed with notes on starting a business, turning nothing into something huge. Ideas sparked like fireworks in my head. Could I do this? Maeve caught me reading and smiled. "That journal's been waiting for someone like you," she said. My heart raced with possibility, but could I become more than their maid? I started work at the cafe the next day, clearing tables and scrubbing counters. But I saw ways to make it better. The menu was old, costs were high, and customers barely came. I suggested new signs, combo deals, and brighter lights to draw people in. Maeve trusted me to try. To my shock, I was good at it. I upsold muffins, cut waste, and drew crowds with small tweaks. The cafe hummed with life, and I felt strong, not worthless. Maeve noticed, her eyes proud. "You've got a business brain, Elias," she said. "Don't stay small forever." Her words lit a fire. I read that journal every night, dreaming of bigger things. One evening, Maeve sat me down. "I'm too old for this hustle," she said, voice gentle. "You're young, hungry. The world's waiting for you to take it." Her belief scared me, but it thrilled me too. I imagined owning my own place, proving my parents wrong. Could I really do it? The journal's pages whispered yes, but the leap felt huge. I lay awake, heart pounding, picturing a future where I wasn't just a maid but a name people respected. Did I dare to chase that dream? That journal gave me courage. I took a huge risk. Maeve introduced me to Julian, her investor friend, sharp, but kind. I pitched buying a failing bakery downtown. It was a wreck, but I saw its bones, its potential to shine. Julian leaned back, studying me. "Risky," he said. "But I'll loan you the money. Pay me back with interest and prove them wrong." Everyone doubted me, a teen with no experience. But their doubt fueled me. I signed the papers, hands shaking, heart racing. The bakery was worse than I thought, leaky roof, ancient ovens, debts piling high like a mountain. I worked day and night, fixing what I could with grit and hope. Fear whispered I'd fail, that I'd crawl back to my parents. Their cruelty, Celine's rag, Darius's laughter, pushed me forward. I wouldn't go back. The grand reopening loomed, but creditors called daily, demanding payment. The numbers didn't add up. It felt impossible to save this place. Could a kid like me turn this dump into something great? Or was I just a maid playing pretend, about to crash and burn in front of everyone? I threw everything into that bakery. New recipes, warm lighting, and clever ads brought people in droves. My cinnamon rolls, soft, gooey, with a secret spice mix, became a city obsession. Lines stretched out the door, chatter filling the air. From a crumbling mess, the place turned to gold. Profits cleared debts and let me add new dishes, like fresh pastries and cakes. The city buzzed about the teen who saved a dead spot. Pride filled me, I'd done this alone. One morning, the local newspaper splashed my face on the front page, "Runaway Teen Builds Bakery Empire." I grinned at the photo, feeling unstoppable. But across town, Darius grabbed the same paper. His eyes narrowed at my picture, rage burning. "That ungrateful kid," he growled, crumpling it. He thought I was still his maid, not a threat. My success wasn't secret anymore. It was loud, proud, undeniable. The article was a spark, and I knew he'd come for me soon. Would he try to tear me down? Or would I be ready to face him? My hands tightened on the paper, heart racing with fear and fire. This was just the start. At a fancy city gala, I spotted my parents across the crowded room, their laughter fake and loud. Darius pushed through, his smirk sharp as a blade. "Look at the wannabe maid who bakes," he mocked loudly, voice dripping with scorn. His friends laughed, their eyes cutting into me like knives. The old shame flared, hot and sharp, but I stood tall. "Better than being a tyrant," I shot back, voice steady as stone. His face turned red, eyes blazing, but I turned away, heart pounding. His cruelty fueled my vow, I'd outshine him, make him choke on his words. Later, I overheard gossip. Darius and Celine were opening a luxury restaurant to rule the food scene. It was a challenge, a direct strike at me. My bakery was thriving, but this was war. I'd take their customers, their pride, their everything. No more hiding, I'd fight head-on. The gala lights glittered, but my mind was on battle. Could I really beat them at their own game? Or would their power crush me? The question burned as I left, steps firm, ready to turn their world upside down. My bakery soared, stealing customers from fancy spots like my parents' new restaurant. I added gourmet sandwiches, fresh salads, dishes their rich clients craved more than their overpriced plates. Reviews called my food bold, their restaurant stuffy and outdated. My lines grew, their tables emptied, their egos bruised. One afternoon, Celine stormed into my bakery, her face twisted with rage, heels clicking like gunshots. "You think you can compete with us?" she hissed, leaning close, eyes cold. "Stay in your lane, or you'll regret it." Her threat hung like a dark storm cloud, but I smiled, unshaken. "This is my lane now," I said calmly, meeting her glare. She spun out, fuming, her warning echoing. Her words lit a fire in me. This wasn't just business, it was personal. I'd take their customers, their reputation, everything they valued. The clash of kitchens was on, and I wouldn't back down. Could I keep outsmarting them? Or would their next move hit harder? My staff watched me, waiting for orders. I straightened, feeling their trust. This was my empire, and I'd protect it with all I had. The battle was heating up, and I was ready to burn brighter. Julian caught me after closing one night, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "You're a natural, Elias," he said, voice steady. "I know investors who want fresh talent. Want to franchise your bakery?" The idea hit like lightning. Scaling up meant real power, a chance to dwarf my parents' fading empire. But doubt gnawed at me like a hungry rat. Expanding could bankrupt me if it failed. I paced my tiny apartment, the journal open beside me, its words urging me forward. Play it safe or risk it all. Build an empire, the pages whispered. I thought of Celine's sneer, Darius's cruel laugh. Safety wasn't an option, I'd go big. I told Julian yes, my voice firm despite the fear twisting my gut. He grinned wide. "That's the spirit. Let's make them jealous." The plan was set, new locations, bigger dreams. But the stakes were huge, one wrong move, and I'd lose everything. Could I handle the pressure? Or would my ambition be my downfall? The journal felt heavy in my hands, like it held my future. I closed my eyes, picturing a chain of bakeries, my name in bright lights. This was my shot to become unstoppable, and I wouldn't let fear, or my parents, stop me. Excitement buzzed as I signed with investors to franchise my bakery, planning 5 new locations, each sleek and bold. But one partner, bribed by Darius, betrayed me with fake health reports, claiming my kitchens were filthy. Headlines screamed violations, and customers vanished overnight like scared birds. Authorities swooped in, padlocking my flagship store, signs glaring in the sun. My heart sank as I watched my dream crumble. Staff whispered nervously, some quit on the spot, bags in hand. The betrayal stung worse than Celine's rag in my face. Darius had struck low, using lies to ruin me. I stood outside the locked bakery, rain soaking me again, just like the night I ran. Was this the end? Had I built something only to watch it burn? My hands clenched into fists, nails biting skin. I thought of their smug faces, counting on my failure. No. I wouldn't let them win. I'd fight back, expose their lies, and rebuild stronger. But how? The evidence was thin, and the clock was ticking fast. If I didn't act soon, my empire would be ashes before it began. I needed a plan, and I needed it now. The bakery's closure broke me. Staff gone, savings drained, I sat alone in my apartment, sobbing for the first time since escaping home. Everything I'd fought for felt lost, the journal's pages mocking my failure. Then Maeve knocked, her eyes fierce but kind, like a lighthouse in a storm. "They want you to quit," she said. "Don't give them the pleasure. You've risen before." Her words were a lifeline, pulling me from despair. I wiped my tears and got to work, digging through records, finding proof the health reports were fake, forged signatures, doctored dates. I called Julian's lawyer friend, who helped me expose the traitor. The news spread fast. I'd been framed. Customers returned, chanting my name as we reopened, the bakery shining brighter than ever. A TV station offered an interview, and I poured my heart out, charming the city with my story of grit. That night, a billionaire investor called, offering millions to expand my dream. My heart soared, but danger loomed. Could I trust this new chance? Or was another trap waiting in the shadows? I gripped the journal, ready to fight again, stronger than before, my resolve unbreakable. The TV interview changed everything. My story, runaway teen to bakery star, won hearts across the city, spreading like wildfire. The billionaire's backing fueled my expansion, 10 new stores, each a masterpiece of warmth and flavor. My empire grew, dominating the food scene like a rising sun. I wasn't just a rival anymore, I was a titan, unstoppable. One evening, Julian shared news: my parents' restaurant was sinking, drowning in debt as customers flocked to my bakeries. Satisfaction burned bright, they were crumbling while I soared. I walked through my flagship store, watching happy faces devour my food, their chatter filling the air. This was my revenge, not through destruction, but by outshining them completely. Their legacy was fading, and mine was just beginning. But whispers reached me: Darius was plotting something desperate, his pride wounded. Would he strike again? Could my empire withstand another blow? I tightened my grip on the counter, heart steady but alert. I'd face their worst and come out stronger. Whatever came next, I'd be ready. My dream was a roaring fire, and I wouldn't let anyone snuff it out, not now, not ever. My empire grew, but so did the stakes, heavy as stone. One night, my parents appeared at my office, faces drawn, eyes hollow. Darius's voice cracked. "We need a loan, Elias. The restaurant's failing." Celine's eyes begged, but I saw their old cruelty lurking behind the desperation. The irony hit like a punch: they'd made me their maid, now they groveled to me. I leaned back, letting silence stretch, sharp as a blade. "Maids don't feed masters," I said coldly, echoing Celine's cruel words. Their faces fell, shock replacing hope. I turned and walked out, their pleas fading like distant thunder. Satisfaction mixed with pain: had I become too hard, too like them? But I couldn't forget their betrayal, their laughter. As I left, I heard Darius mutter, "He'll pay for this." A chill ran through me. They weren't done fighting. What would they try next? My empire was strong, but their desperation made them dangerous. I stepped into the night, city lights glinting like my future. I'd built this from nothing, and I wouldn't let them touch it. The war wasn't over, but I was ready for the next battle. Darius's anger erupted like a storm. He teamed with a shady businessman, spreading lies about slave labor in my kitchens. Protesters swarmed my stores, waving signs, accusing me of cruelty, their shouts echoing. Sales dropped as fear spread like wildfire. My heart raced: another attack, and this one cut deep. Customers I'd won over turned away, faces hard with doubt. I stood outside my flagship store, watching the chaos unfold, signs bobbing in the crowd. Was this how it ended? Had they finally outplayed me? But I remembered Maeve's words: "Don't quit." I gathered my team, combed through records, and found proof: Darius's ally had faked employee complaints, forging names. I sent the evidence to the press, exposing their lies. The tide turned fast. Protesters vanished, and customers returned, angrier at my parents than at me. My empire stood tall, but Darius's move hinted at darker plans. What else was he hiding? I paced my office, heart steady but alert. I'd survived this, but the next strike could be worse. I needed to stay sharp, protect what I'd built. The city buzzed with my name again, but danger was closer than ever. The media firestorm crushed my parents. Their lies unraveled, and their restaurants' shady deals, bribes, tax evasion, hit the news like bombs. The government launched an investigation, and their empire began to collapse, piece by piece. My bakeries, cleared of lies, thrived stronger than ever, lines out the door. Customers poured in, praising my honesty, their voices loud with support. I walked through my newest store, heart swelling with pride. I'd turned their attack into my victory, a shining moment. But the war wasn't over. Rumors swirled that Darius was planning one last desperate move, his pride shattered. I tightened security, checked my books daily, eyes scanning for traps. Could I stay one step ahead? The city skyline glittered outside my window, my bakeries lighting it up like stars. I'd built this from pain, and I wouldn't let it fall. But doubt lingered. What if their next strike hit harder? I pushed it aside, focusing on my team, my customers, my dream. I wasn't the maid anymore, I was a force, and I'd prove it no matter what came next. Their world kept crumbling, a house of cards falling. The government seized their grand estate for unpaid debts, putting it up for auction. I went, hiding behind dark glasses and a fake name, heart pounding. The crowd buzzed as bids climbed, voices sharp with greed. I wanted that house, my childhood prison, to own it at last. When the auctioneer called for final bids, I raised my paddle, voice steady. 1 million, cash, I said, clear and loud. Gasps rippled through the room, eyes wide with shock. The gavel fell, sharp as justice. It was mine. I stood tall, no longer the boy who scrubbed its floors. Darius and Celine weren't there, but word would reach them soon. Owning their castle felt like reclaiming my soul. But what would I do with it? Tear it down? Make it mine? As I left, the weight of victory settled in, heavy but sweet. Yet I knew they'd hear, and their rage would burn hotter. Would they come for me again? I gripped the deed, my empire's strength behind me. This was my moment, but the fight wasn't over. I walked through the house I'd bought, my footsteps echoing on the marble I once scrubbed, each step heavy with memory. The air smelled of dust and past pain, endless chores, Celine's sneer, Darius's cruel laughter. But now, I was the owner, no longer a ghost. I touched the banister, picturing my younger self, scared and small. No more. I stood taller, stronger, free at last. In the attic, I found old photos, me as a kid, smiling before they broke me. Pride mixed with pain, sharp as a blade. This house was mine, but it carried ghosts. As I turned to leave, a noise stopped me cold. Celine stood in a corner, clutching a bag, eyes wide with fear. "This is my home," she whispered, voice shaking like a leaf. She hadn't left when the bank seized it. My heart twisted, anger clashed with pity. Should I call security? Or hear her out? Her presence felt like a trap, but I wasn't sure. What did she want? Forgiveness or a fight? I stood frozen, the house silent around us, waiting for my next move to unfold. Celine's eyes brimmed with tears, her hands shaking as she clutched her bag. "Elias, please," she begged, voice cracking. "I was wrong. Forgive me." Her pain seemed real, not the cold woman who'd mocked me. My scars ached, her rag, her words, but her tears tugged at my heart. I wanted to believe her, to find some piece of the mother I'd hoped for. Before I could speak, the door slammed open, shaking the walls. Darius stormed in, face twisted with rage, eyes burning. "You'll pay for this," he snarled, pointing at me like a judge. "Taking our home? You're nothing." His arrogance hadn't faded, even now, broken and desperate. I stood my ground, heart pounding like a drum. "This is my house now," I said calmly. "You lost it." Celine sobbed, caught between us, her face pale. Darius's threats felt hollow, but dangerous, a cornered animal's last strike. Was he bluffing, or planning something worse? The air crackled with tension, thick and heavy. I had the power, but their desperation made them unpredictable. Would they drag me down with them? I stared them down, ready for whatever came next, my empire's strength in my veins. Darius's threats echoed as he lunged toward me, his face red with fury, but I didn't flinch, standing firm. "You'll regret this," he spat, voice dripping venom like a snake. Celine grabbed his arm, pleading desperately. "Stop, Darius. It's over." Her tears seemed real, raw with regret, but I couldn't trust them. My heart wrestled, forgive her, or stay hard as stone. I'd fought too long to soften now. "Leave," I said, voice like steel, cutting the air. "Or I call the police." Darius laughed, bitter and wild, his eyes flashing with defiance. "This isn't over, boy." He stormed out, dragging Celine, who looked back, eyes full of regret, or was it a trick? I stood in the empty house, my victory bittersweet, heavy as lead. Owning it felt right, but their desperation hung like smoke. Was Darius planning another strike? Another lie to ruin me? I locked the door, heart racing, mind sharp. My empire was strong, but his rage was a storm brewing. I wasn't sure what was next, but I was ready for the fight. I didn't wait for Darius's next move, acting fast to protect my empire. I dug deeper, finding proof of his latest scheme, bribing officials to sink my business with false claims. I sent it to the press, and the story exploded, local tycoon caught in fraud. That night, police arrested Darius outside his failing restaurant, handcuffs snapping as he screamed my name, face twisted in rage. Cameras flashed, capturing his fall, a public disgrace. Celine was nowhere, she'd vanished after our confrontation in the house. The city cheered my victory, but I felt hollow, the past still heavy. Exposing him didn't erase the pain of their betrayal, only dulled it. I stood on my bakery's balcony, watching the skyline glow. I'd won, but at what cost? Was Celine gone for good? Or hiding, planning her own revenge? My empire shone, but doubt lingered like a shadow. I'd crushed their world, but could I keep mine safe? The news played on, Darius's mugshot glaring. I turned away, ready for whatever came next, my heart a mix of triumph and unease. Months passed, my empire stronger, a beacon in the city. Then, one rainy evening, I saw her, Celine, a waitress in a dingy diner, her face worn, eyes tired. She froze when she spotted me, tray shaking. "Elias," she whispered, "I have nothing left." Her voice broke, no trace of the woman who'd mocked me. Pity stirred, but so did pain, sharp as ever. Should I walk away, let her suffer? Or offer mercy? I remembered her tears in the house, her plea, they'd felt real, but so had her cruelty. I stood there, rain tapping my coat, weighing my choice. She'd been my tormentor, but now she was human, broken like I'd once been. Could I be better than they were? Or was this my chance to close the door forever? The diner's dim lights cast shadows, her face pale with shame. My heart tugged both ways, torn between justice and compassion. What I did next would define me, not just my empire, but my soul. I took a deep breath, ready to decide. I looked at Celine, her hands trembling as she wiped a counter, her eyes dull with defeat. "Come work for me," I said, voice steady. "Not as family, as a worker, treated right." Her eyes widened, tears spilling down her cheeks. She nodded, whispering, "You became the parent I never was." Gratitude shone through her shame, raw and real. I felt no warmth, just closure, a door shutting on pain. I'd risen above their cruelty, not mirrored it. She started in my warehouse, packing orders, earning fair pay, no special treatment. It was justice, not kindness, but fair. As I left the diner, a weight lifted, rain easing outside. I'd chosen mercy, not weakness, a choice that felt right. Was it enough to heal old wounds? I wasn't sure. The city sparkled, my empire standing tall. Peace grew, but could I trust this calm? Was another storm coming? I walked on, heart steady, ready for whatever lay ahead, my past finally at rest. Julian stood by me through every battle, his quiet strength my anchor, unwavering as stone. One night, celebrating a new store opening, he took my hand, eyes soft. "Elias, I love you," he said, voice warm. My heart skipped. I'd built an empire, but love was new, thrilling. I leaned in, our kiss warm and real, a moment of peace. For the first time, I felt whole, not just a fighter. But as we pulled apart, my phone buzzed with urgent news. A rival group, tied to Darius's old allies, was plotting a hostile takeover. My empire was at risk again, a dark cloud looming. Julian squeezed my hand. "We'll face it together," he said, his voice steady. My heart steadied, but fear lingered like fog. Could we outsmart them? Or was this the fight that would break me? The city lights glowed outside, my bakeries shining bright. I wasn't alone anymore, but the stakes were higher than ever, a new battle waiting. The takeover threat was real. Darius's old allies, hungry for my empire, planned to buy out my investors, their greed relentless. I called a secret board meeting, my heart pounding like a hammer. The room buzzed with tension as I laid out the danger, voices low. "They think we're weak," I said. "Let's prove them wrong." We strategized all night, mapping every move, charts spread across the table. I'd faced lies, betrayal, and loss before. This was just another battle, bigger but not unbeatable. But the scale was huge, a make-or-break moment. If we failed, my empire would collapse, dreams turn to dust. I looked at my team, their trust in me unshaken, eyes fierce. Could I lead them through this storm? Or would my parents' shadow win after all? The clock ticked, dawn breaking outside, painting the room gold. I stood, resolve hardening like steel. This was my empire, my life. I'd fight with everything I had, no matter the cost, to keep it safe. In the boardroom, I unveiled my plan, voice steady as stone. We bought back shares, outbid the rivals, and secured loyal investors. The takeover collapsed in hours, their scheme crumbling like ash. My empire stood untouchable, lighting up the skyline like a beacon. I walked to the window, heart full, city sprawling below. "They made me a maid," I whispered. "I made myself a king." I hadn't destroyed my parents, I'd outgrown them, their legacy ashes, mine eternal. Julian joined me, his hand on my shoulder, warm and sure. The city cheered my name, but I felt peace, not pride. I'd built more than bakeries, a life of dignity, love, purpose. The war was over, my victory won by rising, not crushing. Whatever came next, I was ready, my empire and heart unbreakable, forged in fire. I looked out, the future bright, my past finally at rest, a new chapter beginning. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the playlist now.